Now we're ready to go sand the floor. Our project home is located in Rogers, Arkansas, and the floor we're going to refinish, it's a foyer. It's 160 square feet of solid red oak. Let's take a look. With any project floor, you should inspect the floor thoroughly prior to sanding. I recommend knee pads for this part of the process because in order to do it right, you need to be on your hands and knees feeling the floor. This inspection process will help you know which sanding machine to select. On this particular floor, there are several items that I've identified. First, the floor is cupped. This condition is caused by an increase in moisture in the wood. This can be caused by something as extensive as a flood event or by something as simple as a change in humidity in the home. With this moisture change, the wood is swelled and the edges of the boards are now higher than the centers, giving the floor its cupped effect. If your floor exhibits this condition, you need to determine if there's an ongoing moisture problem with the floor before you proceed with sanding. And the best way to do that is to hire a professional who can inspect the foundation and the crawl space. In this particular home, we've talked this situation over with the homeowner and they've assured us that there is no ongoing moisture problem and that we should go ahead and proceed with the project. Now, the opposite condition from a cup floor is a crown floor. That's where the moisture content in the wood has decreased since the floor was installed. What happens there is the edges of the wood, they actually pull in and they become lower than the center of the wood. Another characteristic of wood floors that you may notice on your project are gaps between the boards. In most cases, this condition is also caused by changing moisture levels in the wood. As the humidity levels change during different times of the year, wood floors will shrink or expand according to the moisture taken on by the wood. This is a perfectly normal occurrence and is part of the wonderful character of owning a wood floor. Now, the second issue I've identified with this floor is the way that the floor is laid. The flooring is laid perpendicular to the walkway through the foyer. It's significant because I plan on using the drum sander, which requires that I sand with the direction of the grain, and I've got to use the drum sander because the floor is cupped and it's going to take a lot of sanding to get that out of there. Since the walk-through area is fairly thin, much like a standard hallway, I won't have much room to maneuver the drum machine. If this floor was not cupped, I might have chosen to use the orbital sander on the floor because that machine does not require me to sand with the grain. That feature on the orbital machine would have given me much easier access to this area. Once I get started sanding, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. There are a couple of basic steps to floor prep. First, you've got to remove any furniture, doors, rugs, or any items that will obstruct your full access to the floor. Next, determine if there is any shoe mold or other trim that needs to be removed prior to sanding. Here's a trick of the trade. Take a marker and number the back of each piece of molding that you've removed. This process will help you remember where that molding goes in the room when you reinstall it. Grab your hammer and nail set and start inspecting the floor for any exposed nail heads. It's important that all the nail heads are set below the surface of the wood so you don't hit them with the sanding machine. If you were to hit a nail, you could damage the sandpaper or even the bottom of the sanding machine, which could lead to scratches in the floor or even a damage charge from the rental store when you return the sander. Here's another trick of the trade. Keep your towel next to you so you can set your hammer and nail set down on top of it. This will keep you from dropping your hammer on the bare wood floor, which could cause a dent or a deep scratch in the floor that you might see later on or that you're going to have to remove during the sanding process. Now that the nails are set, grab a broom and a dustpan or a vacuum and get any loose trash or debris off the floor. This is important because the sanding machine could run over a piece of debris which could cause a deep scratch or other damage to the floor. The last thing I'm going to do before I bring in the sanding machine is another trick of the trade. I'm going to put a couple of layers of blue painter's tape over the corner of the door jambs and the baseboards. This is important because when I get the machines in here and I start pulling electrical cords and vacuum hoses behind me, I don't want those to rub up against the baseboard and damage those in any way.